Testing 1, 2. We're live. Wow. Another day in the best city in the United States of America, Green Bay, Wisconsin. You think I said that ironically? I didn't. It's quite literally, according to a 2023 survey, the best city to live in the United States. And that's where I lived my whole life. And fuck this goddamn place and fuck every place in this goddamn earth. It's all grimy, useless turmoil. But hey, we just be vibing. We be vibing in the turmoil, y'all. Vibing in the turmoil. Oh yeah, big vibes. Yo, how's it going, viewer on Twitch? What's poppin' with you? We're gonna be vibing here for about an hour, and then I got my car to get an oil change. Got an appointment. And then activism, an hour or so, maybe 2 hours of activism at the farmer's market. It's a little chilly out today too, so gonna wear a sweatshirt. Be all nice and toasty. Big vibes though for about an hour until I gotta start going about doing my thing, getting shit done. Son. But yeah, let's just kick the vibes into overdrive.
They'll always say to you that it's okay. They'll always say to you that it's alright. Under no circumstances will they say to you that it's not okay. Under no conditions will they say to you that it's not alright. If only once in the course of all time, if only once in the course of your life, they would say to you that it's not okay, that it's not alright. If only once they would give you the satisfaction of hearing it spoken, only once allow you to ride on those wonderful words and soar upon the spit and the snare and the astronomical relief of hearing it said, only once. They will never say it's not okay. They'll never say that it has never been, nor will it ever be the least bit right, in the least degree. Have they mentioned that you could get by quite easily without knowing a single moment of what we call joy or what we call pleasure? That you can exist for many years, a lifetime in fact, and be estranged from anything we might call happiness or simply relaxation, yet continue to flourish right up to the very second that your own headstone looms into view. You know that it's
You thought
true.
it'd be
Have
good
they ever
vibes. I
mentioned
never said what
this
type of
to
vibes it would
you?
be.
Have they ever mentioned that no one could get by, that nothing alive could remain so for long without the fear of hurt and dread of harm, without feeling the frustration or the anguish, or the full hell of unmitigated torment that is woven into everything that lives and comprises the very threads, holding it all together and true? Have they ever mentioned this to you? Pain is essential. There's nothing else to do, no other way to be. We can call it what we like, say that pain is something else, or part of something else. Never fret about finding it to be otherwise, finding it untrue. Because pain is essential, it is all there is. So why would they ever mention this to you? Skull crushing. Due to the nature of physical existence, they cannot avoid imparting to select persons what it means to have one's skull crushed, either slowly or quickly, completely or partially, whether one is deliberately attacked by some skull crusher or simply the victim of some skull crushing accident. The reason that skull crushing cannot entirely be kept a secret by them is that such an event involves, in many cases, not only great bodily pain, but also mental derangement and intense emotional agony, striking phenomena that are difficult to conceal, even to the imagination of a brain that has not undergone an actual incidence of skull crushing. Nevertheless, they have succeeded in restricting the knowledge of what it means to have one's skull crushed, to the extent that it is not a vital factor in forming the way the population in general thinks about what it means to sustain lasting and excruciating damage to any part of the human body, whether this part is a skull or the brain inside that skull, not to mention the spine and the similar developments that may ensue from spinal crushing, or even the effects of a pernicious disease affecting some other part of the anatomy that may be crushed from the inside, one cell at a time. Insanity and nothingness. Stuff and nonsense, insanity, derangement. Whatever name you want to use, we can't get enough of it. They've made sure of that. Offer us nothingness and we will pass it by without a glance, given its invisibility to our sight. They've made sure of that too. In the dark corridors of our brains and the black chaos of the world's marketplace, we will rush about as if in a dream, to grab at every piece of pulsing inventory paraded out, a galaxy of arbitrary objects in all shapes and colors, a full array of unrequested needs, unrequested impulses, and of course, every accessory imaginable for those motley costumes of agony we are forced to wear every day of our lives, seizing such merchandise with a death grip, and recoiling only when our hands feel nothing in their closing grasp. Between insanity and nothingness, the choice was determined from the outset. They made sure of everything. Bottom line, no one is in the market for nothingness, while insanity, since time began, has always been flying off the shelves. The sellers. Which of them would ever say that all they have to sell is a piece of fruit gone rotten, shriveled and yet still pale green, with a dying life made of mold? They would never tell you that what they are selling is something spoiled, a piece of fruit left forgotten, unfit to be sold, and ripe with pain.
Life is a misery. Hopefully reincarnation ain't true, y'all, but life is pain. It's the one thing the Buddhists for sure got right.
The very fact that we don't lament the absence of Ferris wheels on Mars, that it doesn't hurt us or pain us or weaken us in some way or harm us in some way, is a realization of the asymmetry in the fact that the absence of the good is not a bad. We don't recognize it with the same gravity weight that we give a bad. It isn't like a harm. The absence of the happy Ferris wheel is not like the existence of the cancer. They're not equal. And that's why there's an asymmetry. Benatar's statement is pretty fucking clear. You're better off never to have been, considering the absence of your condition. And the fact that the absence of your condition will be as meaningless as the absence of the Martians. It will mean nothing as a negative. Absolutely no negative value in the universe. It'll create no brokenness, no harm, no deprivation, no negative whatsoever. No negative whatsoever. No harm whatsoever for you not to exist, for this planet not to exist. That is the fact. That is the asymmetry. The absence of our existence does not produce any kind of negative. It does not produce anything negative except in your delusional mind. Period. Nowhere in the real universe or in the real world can you demonstrate the absence, the loss, the weight, the gravity, the meaning, the substance. You can't articulate it, you can't describe it, you can't define it, because it doesn't exist. We clean up a mess we make, we do not clean up anything else. That is a fact of our existence, and that's why our existence is failed. The purpose of the example is not to say something stupid like, well, the non-existent Martians don't think about it either. We're not non-existent. We can think about it. We can evaluate it. And I'm still going to argue with you. It's an extremely interesting fact that we don't put negative, meaningful weight on the absence of goods. Oh, there's a danger of the slippery is-ought slope. Danger of the is-ought slope. Danger of the is-ought slope. And that's supposed to be a rational way to interact with people? I mean, you know, what, you're gonna call me for crossing the blue line in a football game? Whatever, this has gotten so goddamn to the base, all right, to the root, to the core. The claim being made is the value in the universe, the only recognizable, discernible value, is in the welfare of a sentient being. They create value. There's right and wrong statements, period. You are not instrumental to any need satisfaction or any circumstance in need of fixing in the universe. And that is the asymmetry. The category valuable, what do you put in it? Sentient beings having conscious experiences. Clearly, everything is an abstract in the sense you call trees trees. It's an abstract word, T-R-E-E. It could have been any kind of word, but we know what the concept is. And we're identifying something that exists in the world. Sentience is different than rock. Sentience is different than even grass. Sentience is different than cloud and cosmos and galaxy. It's different than any of those other things, and it's different in a very loud fucking way. It's just idiotic for us not to have a word for what that difference is. And it's fucking value. Value is a thing. It's a property that something has because it has some characteristic that makes it valuable. It's a logical designation. There's category value and things have properties that'll put it in that category. I challenge you to describe to me something of value in the universe that doesn't affect a sentient organism. You can't do it. It has to do with discovering reality. You recognize the fact that, yes, you've properly identified something that fits in the category because it has the properties. You've recognized the truth. The difference between subjective value and objective value. A sentient being in a bear trap is not subjective. It's creating actual value by having a sentient experience. Having a sentient experience creates value. No matter where the sentient is, no matter who the sentient is, and whether the sentient is projecting value or not projecting value to have their sensation is irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you're having a delusion. You could be in delusionary distress or something, having all kinds of sentient experience. It doesn't matter if your perceptions of reality are wrong, if you're running from the devil or something. It's what you're feeling that matters, as stated over and over and over and over again. The creation of a feeling creates value. It's my child or a child. One is a subjective pile of crap, the my child crap. The other is a rational observation that the child fits into categories of vulnerability, of need, and that it has some sort of earned respect based on the fact that it is vulnerable and sentient. That has a welfare stake. That is understood. Saying I possess it, it's my property. Okay, that's a whole different kind of subjective declaration of value that's all projection. It's all just made up. It's not a fucking logical description of reality. It's an illogical emotional reaction. You can't do anything not personal, okay? We're brains isolated, okay? We're isolated from each other. Everything we do is going to be personal in one way or another, okay? The point is whether it's logical and rational or whether it's selfish and emotional. That's the distinction, fuckface, okay? Deal with that distinction. Cut your goddamn brain in half and say, look, I'll take my intelligence and put it over there. Now my intelligence will see me for what I am. I am just another one of the sentient beings. There's many of them. They're all having sentient experiences. Why would the intelligence make a distinction between me and the rest? Oh, that's right. It wouldn't. It would recognize it for what it is. The logical conclusion would be that, yes, the suffering in all the beasties matters. It's all valuable. Logic and your cognitive capacities are not tied to any visceral passions. They're not tied to hunger or horniness or some other desire. You can think rationally and logically, and if you just separate from your own self-interest for fucking 5 fucking minutes and analyze the fucking world for 5 fucking minutes without saying, how do I feel about it? Maybe you'll get a clue that, yeah, the thing that makes your feelings important is the fact that your brain is riding on you. And that's the only reason, all right? And that isn't logical. That's called bigotry. It's called prejudice. Value states in terms of sentient experience. I've said it as clearly as I can say it. You can identify that sentient experience is important, that there are categories of sentient experience, horrible and not fucking goddamn horrible. And it's not any more complicated than that. If it's horrible, it's not horrible just because it happens to you. It's horrible no matter who it happens to. The other sentient beings are just as valuable in terms of their sensate experience as you are. This is a real conversation that needs to fucking take place. I challenge the world to defeat my philosophy. I am defending. A conception, a construct, a mental understanding of the universe, okay? The world we live in. It is not my morality. It is a idea. It is a M equals WC squared fucking squared. It's a fucking goddamn intellectual equation. It is something everybody can see or not see. It is something you can evaluate. It is not some personal goddamn morality dependent on Gary being the one who owns it and who enunciates it. Fuck that. There are truths in the universe. You can say the universe has no truth. The theory of natural selection is ambiguous mush. It is psychological babble. It has no meaning. It didn't really happen that way. The earth does not revolve around the sun. It doesn't do anything. There's no truth. There's no truth to be defined. That is bullshit. What I'm saying is that there's an objective reality and there's an objective true fucking morality. The whole thing is one thing. The whole thing is a description of reality. So go ahead and debate the philosophy, but playing word games and saying that one is synonymous with draconian preaching and the other is synonymous with learning is just fucking bullshit. It is just meaningless fucking rhetoric. You have to make the fucking argument. I'm making the argument, okay? You cannot like the argument, but respond to the argument. Quit all this personal bullshit. It is not me enforcing anything on you. It is me defending a fucking idea. People got hostile because I was pointing a finger at atheists and saying, you're just as fucking bullshit full of religion as the Christians. You don't have an intelligent deity. You have deified ignorant goddamn forces. You have presumed the universe makes sense. The carnage of animal life makes sense. You justify all of it because you're not atheists. You're just fucking heathens. That's all you are. I've explained why I feel the way I feel. I've explained that I look at the world and I see the suffering. I see the horror. I have empathy. My heart fucking bleeds for it. I imagine what it would be like to be experiencing all this fucking horror that exists in the fucking real world. I grew up with it in my brain every fucking night when I went to sleep, contemplated the victims of our life, the people who are paying the real price for us being here, thinking about the soldier on the battlefield having his leg blown off and what it was like sitting around for hours trying to stop the bleeding and just trying to survive while he got some kind of half-ass care. Those scenarios went through my head. I have explained the fucking philosophy. You can say it is for whatever. I don't even know how anybody could possibly construct it as anything but an empathetic philosophy. I am fucking destroyed. I am horrified. I am annihilated as a human being by the fact that there's this huge volume of fucking blood that we're playing in. I will sit there and be the first to crucify me. You can rub me into the dirt. You can destroy me. You can wipe me out. You can puke on every molecule I am made of. And if my fucking understanding is true and accurate and it wins the day, then it will be worth it to me. I'm looking for nothing from this but exemption from your insanity, from you fucktards who keep investing in a system that is fucking broken. It is fundamentally broken. There's no winners in this fucking game. The best you do is satisfy half your fucking desires designed by your fucking DNA molecule, you dumb fuck. You are owned by a molecule, for Christ's sakes. I am defending intelligence. I am defending using some fucking logic and looking at this insane, sick, crazy-ass equation that you are all investing in and saying, hold on, stop, wait. You have to stop and question what the fuck this is that we're invested in. And you fuckers won't even do that. Advocated philosophy. I've cited terms. I've said inner asshole. I've called it the ape. I've called it the lizard, the ape, and the intelligence. Coined the phrase bacteria with fucking brains. That's right. That's what I believe. But I don't believe I'm exempt from it. I don't believe that I'm any better than that. The only thing that makes me different is that I'm arguing a position that is a tiny minority position. Intelligent people get it. They see through my personality defects. They see past the fucking unpleasant rhetoric, and they see that there's goddamn intelligent theory here. This is meaningful conversation, and it needs to fucking take place, and the fucking human race needs to deal with the fact that it's a fucking addicted psychology. It's a fucking bullshit program. You are chasing your motherfucking tail. And it's not an insult. It's not meant to degrade you, just pointing out the truth that we are programmed animals. The need is programmed into us. The whole game is programmed into us. And it only makes sense because we're fucktarded enough to think it makes sense. You are feeding off of this pointless and idiotic competition, consumption and reproduction through the process of natural selection. That's the fucking ball game. We are a psychological animal that has merely been programmed to do this consumption and reproduction thing in an elaborate, psychologically sophisticated way because we are maggots on a higher level of the biosphere. But that's all we are. That's it. That's the game. Our emotions are part of the programming we have to overcome. They are not part of the programming we should wallow in. Don't dare question our creation. That's what you're basically saying. You're the one making the religious argument. No one can question the sanctity of the personal, emotional bullshit organism. That somehow is the cherished stone in the universe, is the eccentric personal bullshit, and that is just fucking rubbish. The game is consciousness. The game is managing it so you don't have all these blood and guts and suffering and misery all over the goddamn table. You have invested in a philosophy where you have presumed that there is no design flaw. All right, and I am pointing out there is a design flaw. The whole system is corrupt at its base, and you don't want to hear it.
So, how goes it? The game plan for today is basically just do a little bit more activism online here for like 30 minutes-ish, you know. Then I gotta zoop on over to the Toyota dealership, get my oil changed. Then I'm gonna zoop my way to the farmer's market and begin activism. And then I shall begin Ubering. That's the game plan for today. And maybe some streaming while I wait for Uber rides and stuff like that, you know. That's the game plan. Ayo. Another day in paradise. Just trying to diffuse the pain. Activism, yep. Basically just trying to make people stumble across this channel and stuff, and trying to go to destroy people's happiness at the farmer's market, being like, yo, motherfuckers, God bless you, may Jesus enlighten your day. Do you actually believe, you don't actually believe that in, like, Jesus, do you, Spirit Oyster? You you're schizophrenic. Schizophrenics either are crazy Jesus lovers or they're like, the universe is talking to us or something like that. You know, they don't like believe in Jesus. I don't believe you actually believe in Jesus. Like, you don't seem like the Jesus type of man. You seem like more like the universe's particles are alive type of dude. You know what I mean? Atheist I am. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I'm like most people who are stumbling across my channel, or it's like 50-50, but most of them are atheists. But I'm like, there's a few Jesus lovers that have stumbled across the channel, and a few Allah lovers. But the Allah lovers get the band hammer because they have no hope. Just kidding. But really, they have no hope. If you grow up in a place and you're like an adult, if you're an adult and you've grown up in Islam like your whole life, and you've like been through like the horrors of Islam, and you're like, man, this is a religion of peace and love, you're just not worth having dialogue with, you know? But Jesus died for your sins. Yeah, exactly. And then there's those motherfuckers, but Jesus died for your sins. And it's just like, oh yeah, so Jesus died to protect me from going to the place that he created to send me to if I don't worship him. Cool. So it's like, yeah, fuck Christianity also, but at least modern Christians, like, you know, can at least have the illusion of religion of love. Like, they don't have people getting like tossed off of buildings and shit, you know, like blood splatter all over the place. That was all in the past, I guess. So it's like at least understandable to some extent how they can keep up the illusion, unlike Islam, where it's just like, you got corpses hanging from the fucking buildings, lads. This ain't a religion of love. But it's just like, I don't fucking know, man. Like, all religions are stupid. The only one that's not is basically Buddhism. And even that's a little bit saucy bucko because they like imply that like we become actual creatures. But like, you know, technically they're right. No atoms can be created or destroyed. So when it comes down to it, we do get reincarnated. Islam's a savage religion. They're butchers, dude. Basically, fuck yeah. Amen. Fuck Islam. Islam is horrible. I recommend the book End of Faith by Sam Harris. It really dunks on Islam. But yeah, basically all religions are poison, but when you have ones that are really convincing people to blow themselves up for the name of a god, yeah, that's kind of where it's a little bit like, yeah, you gotta go on too far, you know, that's not kosher. That's not cool. So yeah, you're right. They're all fucking savages. If you truly believe in Islam, you're a fucking savage. I'm putting that right here, right now, on the record. If I have nothing against any race, religion though. Oh baby, do I have shit against religion? I'm an anti-theist. Fuck your religions, and if you're advocating for violence in the name of religion, do I have beef with you? Jesus, yeah. I mean, back in the day, yeah, we would do all that stuff in the name of Jesus as well. For you know the old name of Christianity, but yeah, it's. I mean, technically, Islam is a Judeo-Christian religion. It's just like it's a branch off. So it's just, you know, they just believe in different prophets, and Allah is technically just Yahweh, but like different teachings and blah blah blah. So it's just like, you know, everybody that's been tossing gays off buildings. All religions are poison. The only thing that's not is like Buddhism. I don't know if Buddhism has anything against gays. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. You'd think if you're Buddhist, you would be for people being gay, given that like they can't reproduce, and so therefore they don't contribute to the cycle of reincarnation. But maybe it's being like a sin or something. I don't fucking know. I don't know what Buddhists believe when it comes to gay people. I'll look into that actually. Buddhism and gay marriage. It sounds like it's mixed, as all religions kind of are when it comes to gay marriage. It's mixed. Some things are like, it is a confusion of the soul. Your sexual desires are out of alignment. And other ones are like, yeah, man, just you be gay or you don't be gay. It's just the way you're born. The way of reincarnation is a thing of the universe, and being gay is a thing of biology. Your soul will not be tainted by your sexual desires, for it's not a sin to love. So it really depends on what you're looking at, which branch and sect of Buddhism, I guess. But some of them are like, that's unnatural. It's a lust, and lust is sin. And others are just like, love is good. So, when it comes down to it, really depends on how much they're going to be like rejecting desires and how much they're going to be about naturalism, I guess. I mean, or whatever. So, yeah. More of the story is fuck all religion. Some animals are gay. We are animals too. Exactly, Spirit Oyster. So it's just like, if, I mean, yeah, it's just like there's like a weird version of natural. Like they're like talking about like, I mean, yeah, by naturalism, I guess. Like, yeah, you should be. If you're a naturalist, you should be in support of gay marriage. But a lot of people are like, it's not natural, man, because they just don't understand how nature works. But by that they mean like for like biological reproduction purposes. But yeah, there's a lot of animals that are gay. So when it comes down to it, yeah, people are just idiots, man. It's just how it is. We live in a world with 8 billion monkeys that can't even learn how to tie a shoe until like 10 years old sometimes. Like, I'm saying, like people are like fucking dum dums. People drink and drive. People fucking yeah, people do crimes like rape and shit. Like, people don't think, people just do. People just see something they find disgusting and they'll try to justify it. Through silly rhetoric and semantics. It's just how it is. People suck. People fucking suck. Moral stories: if you think people suck, don't bring people into existence to experience sucky people. That's another reason to be an antinatalist. Just another. We pump out reasons to be an antinatalist every day here. If you don't like people, your children might not like people. And why bring them into a world where they don't like people? That just is like tragic. There's like 8 billion of those fuckers, and they have to deal with them every day.
It's a physical universe. The physical truths are right in front of you. Anytime you want to go look at it, you can look at it, see what reality is really doing. You can see what's happening in a slaughterhouse, manufactured in your head, and understand it. You can know what's happening in nature. You can understand the statistics. Well, if a sea turtle in its lifetime lays 10,000 eggs and there's only going to be a replacement population, so that means just 2 survive out of 10,000, kill 9,998 children turtles so we can have 2 little adults. And that's acceptable. Why not? Kids suck. Let's murder them in brutal, horrible ways. Let's peck them to death and disease them to death and have a shark bite their little legs off and all kinds of shit like that. Because we enjoy that. We think that's spectacular good sport. That's all you're doing. You're just being shark massagers, massaging the joint on the great white shark and saying, yeah, go baby, go. Go baby, go. Rip some more shit to pieces. You run from the truth. You think you're going to escape everything because you think you're fucking special. That you're not going to get the die choking on your own vomit disease. You're going to get some more pleasant way to go. That's how you think it's going to end for you because you're delusional, hope-driven escapers of reality. That's it. There's nothing complicated here. You don't need a Gary to say this. There's no grand philosophy. Just be honest. It doesn't take much effort to be honest for a second. Just say, what am I basically? Oh, a conniving, scheming, gluttonous whore of an asshole. Just want. Need. And you can't just admit that and admit that's the only thing that's driving you is these silly ambitions, silly glorifications of your status as a human. I'm a thinking thing. What fucking grand thoughts do you actually have? How many minutes of the day do you spend thinking anything grand or decent or consistent with the actual circumstance, which is the meat grinder is grinding right now? Right now, every second, billions every minute. Snapped in the trap, the disease starts infecting. You go blind. Yeah. Every second, this is going on. And you're just doing your tap dancing bullshit. You are so embarrassing your intelligence. But yeah, you're too stupid to know it. The truth is dismally bleak that all of this pain, all of this has been going on for 300, 400 million years. Things have been going ouch. Gross torture has been endured. And this, you think you're winning. Oh, we have NASCAR and real kickboxing, and we have lots of stupid. We can watch Donald Trump fire people. You're just so fucking spectacular. I mean, that's so worth all of the fucking suffering that has been endured on planet Earth. You're just such a magnificent tribute to the process of evolution. Dumbasses, just dumb little butt fucking retards. It's pitiful. People just have to make this simple concession that I'm addicted, I'm here, I want to live, but I don't need to force the game. I really don't. I'm not going to be winning in the future. Statistically, you're going to lose in the future. There's going to be more people being ground up by the industry than are going to be owning the industry. Tiny percentage of the human race that lives in grotesque comfort, while most of the human race lives in squalor and brutal, tyrannical. I'm trying to think of a better word for work. I don't even want to call it work because some of it is so silly in the sense that the work is just so futile, picking rocks out of haystacks. And you're defending it. You fuckers, you can't say, okay, no mas. It's too messy, too expensive, motherfucker, way too expensive. I'm not worth it. You're not worth it. You can't say that? Nobody is worth the price being paid. You can't even justify the price we impose on each other, the birth defects we impose, the elephant man. Can you imagine living that life of the elephant man? I mean, everybody sees him at the end, but imagine the years of brutality. Imagine the experience of watching your face tumorize and deform, and knowing that with every new day, your odds of ever having a life are going further and further away. Any hope of happiness is drifting away. And you can justify it. You can say you're worth it. You're worth that price being paid. You think you're that fucking special. It's putrid. Like I said, you're an embarrassment to intelligence not to be able to recognize what we're caught up in and to pretend there's a God or there's a quantum singularity where everything will all go, and everything will be okay then. You'll have your cosmic orgasm and everything will be fine forever and ever. La, 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 la. You fall for that shit? And I'm supposed to do something other than mock you people? Mock the fact that I even have to say this to other human beings? That I have to sit there and explain to you? It's evolution. There's no God. There's no magical plan. There's no theory of, oh, it's all worth it because someday we'll sit in the clouds and play dominoes. It's laughable just how insipid the fairy tale is that you're living, the detachment from the reality. You're not winning. It's a big meat grinder. The only way to win is to try to throw a monkey wrench, a fucking rock into the grinder and break it forever. That's the only win here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of The Dissenter. I'm your host, Ricardo Lopes, and today I'm joined by Dr. David Benatar.
But for the ordinary problems of life, it's not an appropriate solution because of the heavy costs attached to death.
So, in that sense, would you say that, for example, if someone were to go through a longer period of suffering than she would have been through if she decided to put an end to their life right then and there, and if after that longer period of suffering they would get to a better point in life, that it would be worth continuing their life?
Those are difficult cases to know. So there's a famous case of this kind. Are you familiar with the case of Donald Cowart, who was
No, I don't think so.
He was terribly burnt all over his body, and he wanted to refuse the medical treatment the doctors were forcing on him for this because it was so painful. And eventually he got to the point where he no longer wanted to die. He'd gone through the worst of the treatment. He'd established a quality of life that he was comfortable with. And he was asked, do you not think now that the doctors did the right thing in overriding your wishes and forcing treatment on you that you didn't want? And his answer, quite reasonably, was that, no, I don't think the doctors did the right thing. It's perfectly reasonable for me now, once those costs have already been paid, to want to continue living. But it was not worth my enduring that. So if I could go back in time and know that I was going to endure what I had to endure, I would rather have avoided that. Now, that's a fairly clear case because of just the severity of his wounds and how much suffering was involved. It doesn't seem to me it would have been irrational to elect not to have treatment in that case. But there'll be other scenarios where it's much harder to judge. But I don't think that the mere fact that you will eventually get through the pain and suffering means that the pain and suffering is warranted. It might not be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is very interesting because, as you said, antinatalism doesn't directly say anything about these matters, but on the other hand, since to put forth this philosophy of antinatalism, we have to evaluate really if life is worth living or not, in a sense, or if it has more pain or more pleasure associated with it. I think that we can also use that framework, let's say, to make a case for other situations, like, for example, if someone is suffering from a terrible terminal disease, and if it would be right or wrong for us to perform euthanasia in them. I mean, what are your ideas about the implications that this framework of evaluating life might have for euthanasia?
So again, I don't think that antinatalism itself has implications, although some of the background arguments for antinatalism might have some implications. And we've not explored yet the empirical asymmetries that I think there are between the bad and the good. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I think there's much more pain than there is good, much more pain than there is pleasure in life. And so there's a variety of evidence we can muster for that. Just think about how there is a phenomenon called chronic pain, but there's no phenomenon called chronic pleasure. You can have chronic satisfaction, but matching that would be chronic dissatisfaction. So when it comes to the pains and pleasures, pains can go on for much longer than pleasures go on. Now, pains also tend to be worse than pleasures are good. If you think about the worst pains that there are, those are much more awful than the best pleasures are good. And if you want to test that, you can ask people, you can say, well, would you experience, let's say, an hour of the worst torments imaginable to human beings in exchange for, let's say, an hour and a half of the most pleasurable delights? And I don't think that anybody thinking rationally about this would take a deal of that kind, even though they were getting a longer period of pleasure. And that's just because the pain is so much worse than the pleasure is good. If you think how quickly bad things can happen to us, it takes a lifetime to learn certain things, and that can all be lost in an instant with a blow to the head or a fall. Think about how quickly injury occurs and how slow recovery takes place, if it takes place at all. There are all these metrics that we can use to show how the bad in life is going to predominate over the
He speaks like a Russian for a Latino.
And that is going to be relevant to our assessments of the quality of our lives. But it's not going to be determinative of them.
Bleed.
And are there any other empirical metrics for us to use to determine, as you say, if there's really if pain predominates over pleasure in life?
Yes, so I gave you some with respect to pain and pleasure. So it's the duration, it's the intensity, those sorts of things. But let's imagine we don't use a hedonistic basis for assessing quality of life. Let's imagine we use a desire satisfaction basis. Well, then I'd say we always have more desires than we have fulfilled desires. So if you take the full set of desires, only some subset of that is going to be fulfilled. And so there's always going to be some increment of some balance of unfulfilled desires. When your desires are fulfilled, you don't tend to remain satisfied, because either a new desire of the same kind will emerge or a different desire will emerge. So again, if you look at these sorts of things, you see that they're going to, the equation of desire satisfaction is not going to come out very favorable. If you use objective list assessments of the quality of life, let's imagine you say, well, knowledge is a good thing. It's better to have more knowledge rather than less. Well, think on a spectrum from knowing nothing to knowing everything. Where do we fall? We fall very close to the knowing nothing end of the spectrum. If you think that longevity, let's say in good health, is a good thing, and you think about the spectrum from living for a second to living for eternity, where do we fall on that spectrum? Well, very close to the minimalist end. So whichever metric you use for assessing quality of life, it seems like there's an empirical asymmetry between the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now let's just talk about another topic, that is, in what ways can antinatalism, or the arguments put forth for antinatalism, can connect with environmentalism, in the sense that, in the sense of making a
Ha ha ha. Let's review this bullshit. No, not that.
So I know you think you're familiar with the crop deaths objection and rebuttal, but you're not. I mean, maybe you're familiar with some of it, but you might not be familiar with all of it. But just to refresh you, the objection goes something like this.
If you really want to kill the most things, be a vegan. Because the farmers who protect your beans kill everything. In order to grow tofu, you have to kill every ground squirrel, every vole, every shrew, every snake, every turtle, every frog, every bird, every rabbit. Anything that gets in that bean field, I'm either going to plow and dismember, which is why the crows and the seagulls follow the combines every year. And then if anything does survive my first slaughter, I'm going to come in with Monsanto and poison the shit out of everything so you can have a tofu salad and not be responsible for any death. You.
That's a really good point, and it's a point that a lot of people ignore.
You ever plow a field summer to plant the quinoa or sorghum or whatever the hell it is you eat? You kill everything on the ground and under it. You kill every snake, every frog, every mouse, mole, vole, worm. Well, you kill them all.
And the vegan rebuttal goes like this.
What do farm animals eat? Air? No, they eat plants, and lots of them. So if the people making these claims really care about mice, then they should go vegan. Less harm to both farm and field animals.
Veganism actually minimizes the number of crop deaths you're responsible for. The reason for this is that it takes around 10 times more crops to feed the average non-vegan than the average vegan. Due to all the copious amounts of crops used to raise the 60 billion or so land animals massacred every year, and many of the billions of farmed marine animals as well. Add to that the fact that animal agriculture is the leading cause of deforestation, which kills countless species every single second, and carnism is the ultimate way to maximize plant-related killings.
Seems open and shut, right? Well, unfortunately, anti-vegan disinformation, or discourse if we're being charitable, has gotten more sophisticated lately. And I want to offer a more comprehensive debunking and also clear up a few things vegans seem to be confused about. So let's start where we left off.
No, they eat plants, and lots of them.
The anti-vegan comeback here is that animals eat parts of the crops we can't. In fact, there's a popular infographic from the website Sacred Cow that puts a specific number on this. They say 86% of global livestock feed consists of things humans cannot digest, with nearly half coming from grass. So pause and understand the implication here.
Because of the implication.
We say it takes way more crops to feed animals. Hence, animals cause more crop deaths, plus the direct deaths of the animals we are eating. The anti-vegan says, actually, because 86% of crops are inedible to humans and we can feed those to animals, that can't be true, unless vegans are actually responsible for more crop deaths on a per calorie basis. And this is where the confusion comes in, including from vegans. So let's take a look at where that number comes from and also who it comes from, because frankly, it's pretty amazing.
Amazing.
The infographic cites this study from 2017. And if we look right there, right in the abstract, right at the beginning, we see that sweet, sweet 86% figure. So looks like it checks out. But wait, what's this? In that exact same abstract, it says it takes around 3 kilograms of human edible crops to get 1 kilogram of human edible animal. That's roughly a 3-fold inefficiency in the other direction. The very paper from whence this comes shows right there, right in the abstract, where you can't possibly miss it, and where Sacred Cow author Diana Rogers couldn't possibly miss it, that animal ag still takes way more crops, even when we're looking at just the human edible portion. And to some extent, that's it. We got him. We could stop the whole video right there and say this claim has been put to rest. But it actually gets way worse for the animal ag side of this equation. So rather than just debunking the claim, let's say if we can't actually just pummel it into the dust. Plus, I know some of you are still confused right now, and I know that because I did an Instagram poll on it. So 86% of global livestock feed is human.
It is time for me to go to my appointment to get my oil change. Take care, y'all. I'll see you all in a few hours. And by that, I mean, yeah, probably a few hours.